This is Anna Bevan Gravely with NCFREE, and I'm joined by Justice Paul Newby, who is running for Chief Justice on the North Carolina Supreme Court. Thank you so much for joining us. Before we get started, is there anything that you'd like to share with our membership?
Well, thank you so much for this opportunity, and thank you for those who are watching. Elections have consequences, and the real choice here is, do we want a court that will stay within its lanes? In other words, a court that understands separation of powers, that will grant to the legislative branch the authority to make laws, and the executive, of course, carries it out, and the judicial branch simply applies the law as intended. And do we want that? Do we want a constitution that has meaning, or do we want a constitution that will be interpreted by judges to meet their own personal policy preferences? I think that's what this election's about. I'm the senior associate justice. I first was elected in 2004, and back then it was nonpartisan. I've had broad nonpartisan support, bipartisan support across the state since 2004, 2012. Of course, back then it was Scooby-Dooby, vote for Newby, and now there'll be other information on the ballot in the form of party labels. Does that matter? Yeah, it's about judicial philosophy, which I think we'll talk about in a minute. So as the most experienced of the justices, the only one to have been elected by the people to 2 terms, I certainly hope that you will favorably look upon my candidacy. I'm the only justice to have been a transactional attorney. I did that for 4 years in private practice, and I actually did it for 1 year as an in-house counsel. I understand business, understand the challenges of business, and certainly small business owners. And wow, what an incredibly difficult time for all the businesses across our state. And we need judges who will fairly, consistently, predictably apply the law, so that these entrepreneurs who have so many challenges will have an opportunity to put their best foot forward as they go about meeting the needs of the people and presenting their goods and services.
Awesome. Awesome. Thanks so much. So we'll just dive into the questions. Which one of the current or recent U.S. Supreme Court justices best reflects your judicial philosophy?
You know, I really like consistency and predictability from a foundational understanding of the Constitution, and that would be Justice Clarence Thomas. I recently finished, of course, his autobiography, and I also saw on television his 1-hour special. He truly is an American hero, single mom, raised by a very stern grandfather, and yet he is very much founded or grounded in the bedrock principles of who we are. Equal justice under the law. That's Clarence Thomas, and certainly he would be the one I would identify.
Mm-hmm. So what would you say is your judicial philosophy?
Well, much like Justice Thomas, I believe that words have meaning, that the Constitution, both state and federal, our constitutions need to be interpreted as intended by those who drafted it. I mean, you've only got 2 choices there. Either you go with the original intent or you make something up. And frankly, for stability, predictability, we need to have a constitution that has meaning, just like a contract. A constitution is a social contract. Mm-hmm. And with our business audience, everybody knows that how do you interpret the contract? You try to discern the intent of the parties at the time. And then if you want to change the contract, mm-hmm. fine, that's called an amendment. And again, you have to have an agreement with the meeting of the minds. That certainly is my constitutional philosophy, but it's also my philosophy with regard to the statutes passed by the General Assembly. Intent, what was their intent when they passed that? It's up to judges to apply the law as intended, not make it up on our own. So my judicial philosophy is to make the law, which is for everybody, by the way, not just a bunch of elitist judges. The law's for everybody. And we need to make it consistent and predictable. So when an entrepreneur sits down with their lawyer and they say, here's what I want to do, how do I do it legally? How do I follow the law? That lawyer can say, man, I don't know. It just depends on who the judge is. No, We want consistency, predictability. I've done that since 2004, based on that philosophical bedrock. If somebody says, well, judicial philosophy doesn't matter, boy, be careful. It does. It is the absolute foundation for what judges actually do. So that would be my judicial philosophy.
Yeah, thank you.
You know, it's equal justice under the law too. I'm sorry.
No, go.
You know, the whole idea is that Lady Justice is blindfolded. She can't see who comes before. Rich, poor, powerful, not powerful. Everybody's treated the same. That is the bedrock for the rule of law. America is known for the rule of law. I have judges from all over the country come into North Carolina to meet with me at the Supreme Court to talk about our foundational principles. Sadly, a lot of that is being shaken right now, but the principles are right. Everyone should be treated the same. You don't get preference because you happen to have had challenges in your upbringing. You don't get preferences because you're powerful. Everybody treated the same. To me, that's the rule of law, and certainly that's what I have strived for since 2004.
Yeah. So what would you say are the key principles of free enterprise?
Free enterprise is the opportunity. You know, that's who we are. We are a country that believes that our rights come from God, and that's life and liberty in pursuit of happiness. Our state constitution adds that as part of the pursuit of happiness, that we are entitled to the fruits of our own labor. You know, I'm the benefit of this kind of a country. My mom was a school teacher, my dad an hourly worker. My goodness, why should I be a lawyer more or less on the Supreme Court? And yet, because of the freedom and opportunity that we have here in America to dream dreams and then go and do it, that's unique. That's why we're the light and the beacon on the hill for the rest of the world, that you can dream big dreams, and if you work hard and apply yourself, you get to pursue that dream. We are the only country in the world where you can come and do that. That's why we have so many people trying to get into America. You know, for those that want to bash our country, I want to say, hey, why do you think so many people are trying to get here? And why are they trying to leave the other countries? They're leaving the other ones because they're socialists, and they're coming here because of freedom and free enterprise and free opportunities. And sadly, I see great threats to that right now from even my court. Recently, we had a case where an individual had some friends who dreamed big. They started their company. They asked him to come on as a director, and they asked him to find some other potential investors. He did that. Sadly, the company didn't work out right. And shockingly, the court held that he was liable for securities fraud. He didn't sell them any securities fraud, simply by recommending to some friends that they invest in the company. Now, the friends went and they talked to the CEO and CFO, the sales manager. They got the word straight from them. And yet, even though they didn't rely on the information that was given to them by this outside director, he was held liable. That's scary. That is the opposite of encouraging investments, capital investments, and entrepreneurship. My court ruled 4-1 that individual would be liable. I was the only one who dissented in that case. And I said, that's not the way that the law is. There's no securities fraud simply by recommending to somebody to go buy an interest in a company. And there's this thing called Director Safe Harbor, which encourages, General Assembly wanted to encourage people to help these young startup companies by serving on as a director and having some protection. So when I think about, the breadth of your question, what impact do I as a judge have on the free enterprise system? A lot, more than we should. We recently expanded class action liability just because the court wanted to. Again, this one was 6-1. And I'm the one that dissented saying, we shouldn't be doing this. And the majority said, why not? We have the power, let's just do it. 6-1. Sadly, I'm the only conservative left on the court, and we see the impact in cases just like that.
Yeah, thank you. What sorts of activities did you take part in when you were in college and in law school?
Well, I'm going to go back even a little further than that. Like I said, my mom was a school teacher, dad an hourly worker. From the time I could safely operate a lawnmower, I had my own lawn mowing business and competed with the guys in the neighborhood about who was going to get to mow what yard. And, you know, I did some papers. I think everybody my age did a paper route at some point or time or another.
Mm.
Sadly, when I got I jokingly say the only 4 years I ever spent out of state was 4 years I went to Duke. And when I got accepted to Duke, my dad got caught in the 1973 recession. So here I am working my way through Duke. I'm washing windows, I'm cleaning houses, I'm lifeguarding, I'm doing research, I'm working as a receptionist in chemistry. I'm doing whatever job is open for me to get to do that. Every summer I worked at Disney World. Hi everyone, welcome to Walt Disney World. I worked out west in the wheat harvest. I was a migrant worker going from Oklahoma to Montana, harvesting wheat. I worked at the U.S. Supreme Court as an intern for Chief Justice Warren Berger. I have all kinds of those work experiences. I've sold real estate in Colorado. I actually had a Colorado real estate license and went out there and got to do that. And I've, of course, done all kinds of work in the law. So those would be a lot of my experiences coming along with regard to my own getting to operate in a free market system.
Yeah, that is a wide variety of activities for sure. Oh my gosh. And so what would you say is your greatest accomplishment in your professional career and then in your personal life?
Well, let me start off with my personal life and say, by God's grace, my wife, I'm married so far over my head. She is wonderful. We met in law school, and she is truly the wings beneath my wings. You know, she is my big encourager and my best counselor. We have 4 children. I'm very grateful for that and the opportunity to have raised them, and I'm so proud of all of them. From a professional standpoint, I mean, my goodness, I'm a nobody and I got elected to the Supreme Court of North Carolina. That's pretty huge, you know. But as a lawyer, my greatest accomplishment was the return of North Carolina's original copy of the Bill of Rights. It was stolen in 1865 by a Union soldier, and I did the undercover sting operation in 2003 that got it back. A National Treasure movie coming to the theater near you at some point. But, you know, to have that opportunity to participate truly in history. North Carolina is the Bill of Rights state. We're the only state to have voted down the federal Constitution because there was no protection of fundamental rights and freedoms. The drafters of the Constitution said the federal government will never be big enough to impact our fundamental rights and freedoms. And North Carolina said, baloney. We don't believe that. And until there is a Bill of Rights, we won't join. It was only after the Bill of Rights was proposed that in 1789, we had our second constitutional convention to ratify the Constitution. But as I said, a Union soldier stole that in 1865, and we were able to track it down, and through an FBI undercover sting operation, we got it back. So that's a fun story I love to tell. If anybody wants me to come to their civic group and tell that story, I'd be glad to do that.
That definitely would make a really great movie. I think ideally not Nicolas Cage, but I see where you're going with that. So what is your...
How do you get somebody to play this, right? So.
What would you say, or what is your vision for the future of our judiciary system? What changes would you advocate for and why?
Wow. We have never been at a more of a point of crisis. Okay, as I look around the world, people who want to trash our judicial system, I ask them one question, which is, if you had a case that you could have tried in any court in the world, where would you have that case tried? We have so many checks and balances within our system to protect against arbitrary and capricious decisions. Only 10% of the world have jury trials, 90% have judge trials. Guess where the corruption is? That's in the 90%. We have, not a perfect, we have the best legal system in the world. And so when you say the word system, what's involved with that? Systems are neutral, okay? You have individuals who make up the system. So you have judges, and you have prosecutors and defense attorneys, you have plaintiffs attorneys, you have defense attorneys. And across the board, the idea is to seek the truth, what actually happened, and then apply the law equally to that situation, and that equals justice. And I will say justice delayed is justice denied. I'm concerned about currently the courts are effectively shut down in many ways. And what are about all these individuals who have all these cases that are pending out there, and what's going to happen with that? Landlord tenant. I saw the other day that there were over 10,000 cases pending with regard to that. All types of business issues. I'm a big advocate of the business court, and I certainly encourage the General Assembly to make direct appeals to the Supreme Court. I like that model of having one judge hear the case from beginning to end, unlike a lot of other situations in our state. I think that's a good model. But I would say, in a nutshell, justice delayed is justice denied. We need to work on ways that when disputes enter our legal system, that they can be dealt with in a timely manner by consistent judges and, if necessary, presented to the jury so that we can get resolution of these cases in a timely manner. With regard to the other aspects, yes, we need to certainly listen to what folks might be having to say about other changes that we could address, but frankly, a lot of times, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And if, in fact, our system is working well, why would you begin implement changes until you figure out, do all the stakeholders appreciate that this is the way that we need to go? In my 40 years of practicing law, 16 years on the Supreme Court, I believe that bringing in stakeholders and getting their input into our judicial system is the appropriate way to go. Certainly that would be my approach as well.
Yeah, awesome. Awesome. Thank you so much for your time. I've really enjoyed this this conversation and learning more about you and your viewpoints. Before we end our time together, where can our members go to learn more about you?
Well, I'm a dinosaur, but I've got all this social media stuff with Twitter and Facebook and LinkedIn. Generally speaking, you can go to paulnewby.com, paulnewby.com, not scooby-dooby.com, but paulnewby.com, and you'll be able to get all that information. Certainly appreciate your organization, all that is done through the years. You certainly are very influential in the business community, and it's essential in this day and time. To me, the small businesses in North Carolina are the true heroes of our economy, and despite all the government regulations and everything that are thrown at the small businesses, they seem to overcome because of American ingenuity and just willpower. So thank you all for your participation in this.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your day and good luck on the campaign trail.
Thank you so much. Appreciate your allowing me to participate.